All right, let's talk about a huge, and I mean huge, problem in cybersecurity today. The attacks you just don't see coming. We're going to dive into how BeyondTrust is tackling these hidden threats, the ones that are quietly costing companies a fortune.
So let's kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up and pay attention: 90%. That is the percentage of organizations that had an identity-related breach in just the last year. Think about that. It's not a question of if your identities will be targeted anymore. It's just a matter of when. So that leads to the big question, right? Companies are spending billions on security tools. So why on earth do these attacks keep working? Why do we keep seeing the same kinds of breaches in the news over and over again? And you know what? The answer is actually pretty simple, but it's powerful. You can't stop what you can't see. The real issue isn't that we don't have enough security controls, it's that there's this massive visibility gap. Attackers are using pathways that most defenders don't even know exist. The truth is, we are smack in the middle of a modern identity crisis. That old idea of a secure network perimeter, yeah, that's gone. Today, the real battleground is identity itself. Every single user, every device, every application, it's all a potential doorway for an attacker. To figure out the solution, we have to get inside the attacker's head and understand their advantage. And it all boils down to seeing things from a completely different perspective. We've got to stop looking at our systems like defenders and start seeing them through the eyes of an attacker.
And this right here is the heart of the problem. While your security team is probably buried in static lists and spreadsheets of who has permission to what, attackers see something totally different. They see a dynamic map, a graph of all the connections and relationships. They're not looking at lists, they're looking for pathways they can exploit. This is exactly what BeyondTrust calls paths to privilege. And look, these aren't just some theoretical weak spots. These are the actual step-by-step playbooks attackers use to turn one tiny breach into a complete catastrophe, giving them the keys to your most critical assets. Let me make this real for you. An attacker gets in with a basic user account, maybe from a simple phishing email. But because that user happens to be in some forgotten, nested group, they can now access a server. On that server, they find a poorly configured service account that has way too many rights, and bam, just like that, they've navigated a hidden path and are now a domain admin. It's a total chain reaction.
Okay, so if the problem is that we can't see what's really going on, the solution has to be a whole new way of seeing. It's all about moving from what you think your privileges are to understanding the access an identity truly has.
And this is where the whole concept of true privilege comes in. And honestly, it's a paradigm shift. It's not about the permissions you thought you granted to someone, it's about the complete, total access that identity actually has once you factor in all those hidden connections, those nested groups, and those sneaky misconfigurations. And hey, the data completely backs this up. A staggering 40% of all vulnerabilities reported by Microsoft are about one thing: elevation of privilege. This is literally the attacker's #1 playbook. Find a weak spot and climb the ladder to get more power. This shows that controlling privilege isn't just part of security, it's the absolute heart of it.
Okay, so we get the problem, right? Hidden paths, need to see true privilege. Now, how do you actually do that? How do you get that total visibility? Let's take a look at the solution in action. The answer is a unified, AI-driven platform. And that word unified is everything here. Instead of trying to patch together a dozen different tools that just end up creating more blind spots, this approach gives you a single, clear view across your entire identity landscape. And this unified approach is a really key differentiator. A lot of the older solutions out there are modular and siloed, which ironically can create the very visibility gaps we're talking about. The whole goal here is to move away from those static lists and towards a dynamic graph that maps out the actual attack paths. It's an architecture that's built for the complex threats we face today.
Of course, a new approach sounds great, but it's only as good as its results, right? It has to work in the real world. So let's look at the proof points that show this strategy actually works.
Let's start with the number 7. For 7 years in a row, BeyondTrust has been named a leader by Gartner for privileged access management. Now, in the fast-moving world of tech, that kind of consistency is almost unheard of. It really shows a long-term track record of getting it right.
Next up, over 20,000. That's how many customers around the globe trust this platform to protect their identities. And that number includes 75 of the Fortune 100.
So that tells you this isn't some niche product. It's an enterprise-grade solution that's proven to work at the highest possible scale. And this last number is, well, it's just staggering. Over 1 billion. That's how many secure remote sessions have been powered by their technology. Just try to imagine the scale and the reliability required to hit a number like that. It represents a level of battle-tested performance that is truly hard to match. But beyond all the big numbers, it really comes down to the real-world impact. Here's a quote from a customer that just says it all. Their endpoint privilege management product is close to magical. I mean, when you can get rid of one of the single biggest security risks, local admin rights, without messing up your user's workflow, that's an absolute game changer.
So we're going to end right where we began, with a really powerful question for you. After seeing how attackers really operate, can you confidently say that you see every single path to your critical assets? Because if you can't say yes to that, then you can't stop what you can't see.